I think we could start. All right. Hi, guys. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today as we talk about keeping up with changing customer behavior. This event is brought to you in partnership with Zendesk. Now, before we start, let's just go over a few house rules. There's just 3. So we invite you to join the discussion. You can use the chat box to share insights about the discussion. So just feel free to add in your comments and insights as well. We are opening the floor, as always, for your questions. So our panel will be answering questions. So please just do type them in the Q&A widget that you will see on your screen. Third, this webinar is recorded. We will be sending all of the attendees a link via email so that you can view it after as well. Okay, so maybe let's do a quick poll. Okay, let me just launch this thing. We want to know who is in here. So if you could just answer the question on your screen, let's just give it a few minutes. No, seconds. Right. Okay. All right. Okay. So for the next question, now up as well, we want to know like what concerns you the most today, like customer wise. I think it's a pretty tough question in terms of a poll, but yeah. All right. Thanks for participating on that, everyone. Now, to really start the discussion, I would like to turn over the floor, the screen, to our moderator, Christopher Starr.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, first, thank you to E27 team for inviting me to moderate today's very exciting discussion. And of course, special thanks to Zendesk for partnering with E27 as well for today's webinar. And welcome everyone. My name is Christopher Starr. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Catalyst Case. It's a DC brands of a premier active lifestyle tech accessories. We're currently available in 70 countries globally. But prior to joining Catalyst, I have about 17 years of experience in digital. I've launched startups across Southeast Asia and a little beyond that, such as Raizada, Guava Pass, Happy Fresh, Factor, and many more. I'm also an accidental content creator during the pandemic. I've become a live streamer and podcaster. And today I'm really excited because I love talking about obsessing over customers. Now, before we begin, to all the viewers right now, please send in your questions. We do have a Q&A at the end of the program, so please stick around. And today's topic is aptly called Keeping Up with the Kardashians. No, not really. We're here to talk about keeping up with the changing customer behavior. And today we will learn how customers interact with businesses and how that has shifted in the past year. And of course, the pandemic has accelerated the shift to digital, right? But it also highlighted the drastic shifts in behavior of different types of customers. So please join me in welcoming such an amazing panel today that comes from very various countries and experiences. First, we do have Kunimura, Director of Startups for APAC at Zendesk. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Chris.
Great. And we also have Siddhant Raizada, Global Head of Marketing at Kristal AI. Hi, Siddhant.
Hey, Chris.
And we also have Brent Doyle, founder and CEO of Mosaic Solutions. Hi, Brett.
Hi, Chris. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. But before we start, can you guys please introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about what you guys do, what you've been doing, and what you currently do for your companies? Maybe let's start with, of course, Ken from Zendesk.
Yeah, thanks. And first of all, thank you everyone for joining. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Khan. As you could probably tell by the background, I'm located in Japan, our Tokyo office. Just a quick background of myself. I've been with Zendesk, and let's start off with what Zendesk is, just for people who don't know us. We provide customer service solutions, so the organization and the company could connect with their customers more intimately and provide better customer experience, right? And I've been with Zendesk almost maybe 10 years now. I was fortunate to experience the startup phase and the journey of Zendesk itself, but also working with a lot of startups during my SMB sales lead time, and just fortunate to understand the pain points a lot of the startups have, just growing up business, but also having established, a customer support solution in place. Right now, with all that experience that I have gained in the Zendesk itself, but also talking to a lot of folks in startup world, I'm more focused now in leading startup program initiatives in APAC, which is, not just providing 6-month free usage of Zendesk, but also really partnering up with the VCs, accelerators, incubators in the region to really help, one, to understand for ourselves to how we could improve in communicating to the startups, but also really helping startups grow their business, and how impactful the CX plays in that part of their journey. And today, I'm really excited to learn more from these leaders today, fellow panelists, to really understand what kind of trends they see in their world, and to really learn and share. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Let's also have Brett introduce himself.
Yes, so I'm Brett Doyle. I'm the founder and CEO of Mosaic. Prior to starting Mosaic, I've had a various collection of roles, I'd say, in both finance and operating, including back at a startup back in Internet 1.0, so San Francisco in the 90s. And through the downturn of 2000, 2001, which had a lot of similarities to the last couple of years as well. But yeah, so I moved here to start Mosaic in 2016 with my family. So we provide software solutions and analytics primarily into the F&B space. So we're a full suite provider, which means we sort of marry front of house and back of house and bring it all together to try to provide sort of a one-stop shop for our clients. So just to piggyback off what you said, Chris, I think we all need to obsess over customer behavior. So that's definitely a part of our everyday life and sort of part of our core values within what we're doing at Mosaic and helping to build Mosaic here in the Philippines, but across Southeast Asia as we move forward as well.
Thank you, Brett. And of course, we have Siddhant.
Hey, Chris, thanks. Thanks for inviting me for this session. And I may confess that my experience may pale in comparison with all the other panelists that I'm sharing the session with. I work at Kristal. I look at marketing and growth for Kristal. We are trying to bring private banking within the reach of many. That is the goal and the mission of the company. And I'm a finance guy, been in the startup world for 10 years, was with MNCs across in UAE, US, for the 10 years before that. So I worked in big companies and now been a part of the startup world for the last 10 years. I'm personally driven by a mission to build a global company out of Asia. Singapore is where we are headquartered. It's a great kind of a place where you get all the Asians, Europeans living, working together. So it's kind of a personal goal to really create a multicultural Asian company which goes to different parts of the world. And that's what we're trying to do. A long mission, one day at a time, one customer at a time. It's a really unknown world. Customers are changing. So really happy to share what we have learned over the last few years as we're trying to build this company out of Singapore. And but also very intently keen to listen from other panelists as to what we can really take to my business and to my customers. So thanks for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Siddhant. Now, I would want to start actually with you, Siddhant, and asking you, I've connected with all of you in LinkedIn, and what caught my attention on Siddhant's profile is that they're in a mission to make private banking more accessible, more transparent, and more personalized, right? So why do you think your customers want these things? Is the current situation broken?
Yeah, I think the first customer of Kristal was the founder of Kristal himself, right? He was shooed away. So he is in Singapore. He was a hedge fund manager. He had a couple of $1 million that he had saved from his savings. And he said, "No, today I'll go and open a private wealth account." And he was told that, "No, you are $1 million short. You still don't qualify to get a private wealth account." And that's when he kind of got very irritated. I think he had a couple of beers and he realized that something's wrong about it. Even after having a $2 or $3 million, if I still don't qualify for a good wealth management service, I need to do something about it. And I think he also discovered that he was not the only one. He discovered that there are many people like him who are in the middle, who have $1 million with them, but they don't qualify for a private wealth account, but they are not satisfied with the retail banking solutions that are offered to them. And that's the middle that he discovered from his own personal experience. And that's what we're trying to do. We have also discovered that apart from the middle, there's also a change in the consumer expectation. Today's consumers, when you tell, I mean, they ask a question, you say, you are get this, and that's why I think democratizing is a word that has been a buzzword across a lot of startups in the world, where a consumer is basically asking, I deserve it, I can afford it, why don't I get it? And lot of our founders are actually trying to do the same. They're trying to deliver things that were restricted for a few rich people who could afford, a few people who had access to it, and trying to bring it within the reach of many, many people. I think I see that democratization as a way with IKEA also, right? IKEA is also trying to bring a good quality furniture, household wares within the reach of many. So I think that we are just adding to that wave of consumer expectation, where we are trying to say, yes, you deserve it. There's nothing that says you can't have it, and we are going to give it to you. And the current, as I said, right, since the time we started to the now 5 years after, since our journey, we have only seen the barriers to increase in private wealth. What used to be a $3 million barriers to entry, or the minimum to open a private wealth account, has only increased to $10 million now. So there is a big segment that is increasing, that wants that, and we are just trying to deliver that service to them. And when you say private banking, you think customization, you think personalization, right? You think of access of great products, but transparency is one thing that people have always complained about banks. If you use the word bank, transparency is not an adjective that people assign to a bank, right? It's a lot of hidden fees and a lot of charges, and that's you kind of discover towards the end of your statement. So the whole digitization technology enables you to be more transparent upfront. So that kind of comes with the fore of creating a new age private bank. Transparency is a given, and access and personalization is something that you pursue every day. So I think that's how I see it.
Wow, I'm definitely can relate to this. As a consumer, I think there is a definite growing demand for personalization. You feel like you are entitled for this, unique experience all the time. But in connection to that, I'd like to ask Brett, are you seeing this similar trend in working with your clients? Because you work more with corporate clients, right, like retail and F&B, and you work with you have such an extensive experience. You mentioned it earlier. You work in healthcare, hospitality, and I'm very focused on F&B. Are you seeing your clients right now, which are more B2B, right? Are they also demanding something similar?
Definitely. Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, I think that idea of transparency and then customization and personalization is something that transcends B2B and B2C, right? It's what people have come to expect, because they want to know that you know them, you understand their pain points, and you're delivering a solution to solve for those. I mean, I say this all the time, but sort of technology for the sake of technology is not a business model, right? It's technology that actually solves a pain point, that provides a solution that a customer wants. And so I think to do that, you need to be always listening to your clients, to your customers, and then providing that experience that feels customized, that is customizable in a particular way, but scalable as well, right? You can't just go around customizing for every single customer, especially on a B2B sort of enterprise level. So I think that's what we've tried to do from a technology perspective, is be able to provide that customized, that experience that feels very customized in a scalable way, right? So, and I think for us, it's that idea that that people sort of become to understand, which is this pain points that are the same, really, regardless of geography, regardless of level of economic development across the globe. It's that pain point of, how do I bring all this information that's being thrown at me together in some sort of holistic way that makes sense to me for my operations, and then makes that usable. And I think that last part is, again, that's where the customization comes in, because it's each company has somewhat different operations when it comes to our industry, for sure.
Right. Just to follow through on that, Brett, Siddhant was very specific on the target market they're tapping into, right? Like, these are people who might have $1 million or more, but not enough to get someone specifically to manage their wealth, and not happy with retail banking options for them. How about you? Like, you talk about customization. Are you talking about clients that are like multinational companies? Are you working with them, or what kind of clients are you currently working with?
Yeah, so we started with sort of a focus on multi-brand, multi-location restaurant groups, groups that are sort of 3 to 5 locations at the low end, up to 50, 60, even higher at the high end. And then over the last couple of years, we've definitely had to, I wouldn't say pivot, but expand that addressable market, right? Because what we've seen is changing consumer behavior, and changing consumer behavior in the B2C side has impacted the B2B side, right? And so you sort of follow that through, and what do we see? Well, it's this omni-channel approach to, how do I get food? How do I get things that I need? And so we now have the top cloud kitchen operators here in the Philippines as clients. We've moved into retail as well, because there is this sort of multi-pillar approach to driving sales now, right? So as I'm a restaurant, I have dine-in, I have takeout, I have delivery, I have retail, I have, wholesale as well now, so that I might be doing. So we have to be able to our solutions have to be flexible enough to be able to work in each of those environments without trying to be all things to all people, because I think that's the other side of consumer behavior that you have to know and understand, is where do you really, again, going back to my original point, where do you really solve a pain point? Where do you really provide a solution? And if you start to go broad, I think that's where you start to hit some issues as well. So we've got to stay, our core customers might move in terms of how they're delivering, what they're delivering, but they're still delivering the same product, right? And so that's what we need to be able to do as well.
Nice. I can totally relate to this. I used to run a cloud kitchen as well, one of the first ones. I was a struggle to talk about the challenges that we have, but let's dive into that a bit later. But
Sure.
Ken, you have a very interesting background. You started in like support and sales, so you really work closely with customers. And prior to your current role, you work with a lot of small, medium businesses, I would assume, at Zendesk, right? And it's a common question, like, why do businesses need to adapt, especially for small businesses? It's like, it's working for us. Like, we've grown this for years, especially for more traditional businesses. Their grandparents have started it. They've been doing it the same way 20 years ago. Why change now? Like, why is it important?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one short answer is, as we all here discussing today, is the customer behavior is changing. It always changes, it evolves. We're always keen on understanding what's the new trend, right? Pre-COVID, or in the new normal days as well. Look, I would say, like, when you say older business, more traditional, if you're referring to like the channels that we work, our parents, our grandmothers, fathers, they use, like telephones, right? Phone channels, the web forms, emails, the traditional ones. I wouldn't say that's dead. I think it's if it's relevant to your customers' needs, that's fine. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think all business would love to, connect with the customers. If they, whether that's through marketing, customer support, but just to understand what the pain points that the customers are having, and to also improve your products as you go through this feedback, right, from them. So it's always important, and I think the business are looking ways to connect and engage with customers and finding how to meet the customers where they are. So right now, we're seeing more conversational, world where people are, reaching out to business through social messaging and asynchronous, conversation that's happening to provide support and to receive support. But I don't think, I think the key is not to limit the channels and how to approach the business. Just give them the choices, right? And the important thing is what Brett mentioned is the Omni channel. Make sure their organization understands the customers reaching out by phone and email. The same person is your organization have that data information to provide the best customer experience. So I think it's important to have that radar and be agile and be on the trend to understand that behaviors are changing and to make sure that your organization and the operation is agile enough to meet them to the right place. Yeah.
Wow, that's really very true. It just reminds me of this experience at my bank where I go to a branch and they ask me to pick up the phone and call someone. I'm like, I'm already at the branch. Why are you if I want to call someone, I would have picked up the phone, right? I don't need to like line up just to go here. It's crazy. It is very true as well. It's about relevancy to customers. Sometimes I want to pick up the phone and call someone. Sometimes I just want to send a tweet or Instagram story or email, right? It really depends. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that was also interesting prior to going live, we were kind of talking about it. We all know there are new variants of the coronavirus. As Siddhant said earlier, like there's more variants now that's coming out faster than a new iPhone. Very, very true, right? So we were definitely caught by surprise by it last year. And we've started somewhat kind of like seeing a lot of changes in the beginning of the year. What were these shifts in your customers' behavior that you guys have observed? And do you have any kind of tool or framework or maybe trade secrets that you want to share with us today on how you keep track on these changes? This is for everyone who wants to jump in and answer. What were these changes that you've observed in the new normal?
Yeah, I'll just jump in first, a quick one. I mean, for us, it sort of goes back to what I was saying before, this awareness all of a sudden from restaurant owners and operators that they needed data, right? And they wanted to be able to have data at their fingertips. So restaurants have always been, similar to retail, always been this combination of art and science, right? And they will always be a combination of art and science. If you try to go all science in a restaurant, that's not a really good formula. If you try to go all art, it's not a good formula, right? But that balancing point is shifting a little bit. So there is more science now, especially over the last 2 years, because people know that they need to make the right decisions. They need data to make decisions, right? And so, margins which in an industry which were always tight have gotten tighter because of the last 2 years, right? So I think people now have fully come to understand and grasp the fact they need technology, and they need technology they can easily use at their fingertips wherever they are, right? And getting those insights. It's not just providing data, it's providing insights to how to use that data and what it's telling you as well. And so I think for us, that was the biggest shift in mindset, especially here in the Philippines, but also in other markets throughout the region. And in terms of how we, keep track of it, I don't think that there is necessarily a trade secret that goes along with that. It just goes back to what we've all said. It's listening to consumers, it's talking to consumers, and it's not not just when you want to go sell them something, but all the time, right? So, and I think having those conversations with clients when you're not trying to sell them something is the best time to get that kind of feedback. So I think that's been really key for us. And during this time when we're just calling to check in on people, which we've all done with our family and friends and loved ones, we do it with clients as well over the last couple of years, especially, right?
Wow, interesting. I cannot agree further with the data and insights. Definitely discussions with the restaurant partners that I approached when I still had a cloud kitchen. It was very difficult to talk about data. When you ask them, like, do you have a customer database? They're like, what's that for, right? They don't get that. How about Siddhant? Do you have any insight that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, maybe a little more philosophical answer, but sorry, from India, so philosophy is going to come. Along. So what I've seen is that because of Corona, people have become more conscious of a very important resource they have, this time, right? They want to only spend time with people or interactions which are valuable to them. They don't want to really spend time. So initially in a private banking world, I'll come share a very simple email. One of our clients shared that he was a traditional private wealth client, multimillionaire. He came to us, and the story that he shared was because that his relationship manager calls him that, why don't we catch up? We'll go fishing. I bought my yacht. We'll go fishing. And we'll have a good time. We'll make fish. And you know what? He says, first of all, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat fish, right? And if I have time, why would I spend time with my relationship? I would rather spend time with my family, right? And so this was expected previously, right? You would expect your relationship manager to call you for a nice golf session of golf, go to a yacht, things like that. But people don't expect that. People want to save the time so that they can do things meaningfully for themselves. It can be spending time with the family. So as a company or a product, you can't be wasting the time. You have to really listen to them so that you're adding value. So that is one change we have seen. We have thankfully moved away from those just come and meet me, I want to see your face kind of meetings. To really say, if you have something important, call me, I'll talk, I'll give a quick decision. So people are a little more conscious of time, and that's a good change. It kind of helps sieve me to businesses from business that really add value. So I think the challenge increases, but in a good way, that you have to do that much effort to really add value. You can't just be there, put your shop on the street and hope the business is going to thrive. So that's not going to happen. So that's a simple way I would say how the consumer behavior has changed for us.
Wow, that's so true. Again, I think how we spend our time now, we're very much more conscious. We do give more importance to our time. It's so true. Before the pandemic, we were looking at time and like, oh, we're going to be stuck in traffic again. And that's not the case anymore. So we do see time very valuable. How about Ken? What's your experience?
Yeah, I could definitely relate to both Brett and Siddhant there. And just touching on what Siddhant said, the way people spend time and prioritize time has definitely shifted, as we all personally experience as well. For us, as a business, we work with a lot of different verticals and different types of business. But obviously, when pandemic hit, it was really about the challenges the business had in rolling out remote or dispute workforce per se, as becoming a work from home kind of remote operation. And obviously, with people who's more kind of in tune with the digital world, are more, I guess, more experienced in or has an appetite to roll out these things by using technology. But digital immigrants, people who's not really in, hasn't been experiencing the tech world too much, it's a bit tough. So for us, obviously, and this was a time, when I was leading the SMB sales team. So obviously, sales motion was, we didn't want to make sure we wanted to make sure we're coming, reaching out to customers, existing customers, and new customers, helping them to roll out the operation. More of a consultation, and nothing more of that than hard sales pitch. We never did that. And just to give an example, we also made sure that we're partnering up with other solution providers to give, help the business organization, manage remote operation, like the service provider called Timeship, which manages the workforce and gives better visibility of their team productivity and the efficiency across the remote operation. And wanted to make sure that empathy, first and foremost, is there in every touch point that we do, is from sales, marketing, everything. We don't want to bombard them with any of the marketings that didn't make sense, right? We want to make sure that our customers are feeling comfortable to reach out to us for help, and we are there to help. And just last bit, of course, the customer side as well, but I think Brett and Siddhant could also relate to this, is that the team. We also wanted to make sure our team members are taken care of well, feeling comfortable working and being supportive, because that does impact how they communicate with our customers as well. So that was the first most important part of our kind of change and challenge also we faced.
So, but do you have any tool to monitor all these customer changes? What are your trade secrets, if any?
Yeah, so similar to Brett, we listen. There's no real kind of tools to track. Obviously, we use Zendesk. We want to make sure that we see early trend that's happening and we cut early. But we also do kind of annual survey reports to our existing customers to make sure that we're on top of the trends and what they've been seeing in the market globally as well. And obviously we've been learning a lot of different trends in different regions, but definitely a common theme is really the social messaging channels has surged tremendously during this pandemic. So yeah, I mean, no secret in tracking these trends, but I would say just keep engaged with the customers and making sure that we're agile as an organization as well to make the shift as we go along. Yeah.
Great. I'm starting to see some questions from our guests and the other viewers here. As mentioned, we will answer them at the end of the program, so please stick around. Do send them over. I'm starting to see as well some of these questions will be asked during the course of this webinar, so I'll try to insert them. Actually, my next question for the group is somewhat related to one of the questions here from Joel on how we know if the customer trend is here to stay. So my question is actually, do you think the effects of the pandemic is permanent? And do you think it would be reversed as we slowly, hopefully, go back to normal, right? I don't know who would like to be the volunteer on this question.
I could kick off, maybe just get this full rolling. So whether if it's here to stay, like from our recent survey, as I mentioned, like the CX trend is the annual report that we shared. But as I mentioned, the surge of usage of open messaging, social messaging becoming the new channel for support and customer experience. People have implemented, and we do have a kind of survey feedback that it's going to stay. It will stay, and in that part, I would just kind of say that these changes that accelerated the trend of social messaging and opening up different channels to the consumers, customers, are from our perspective, it's here to stay. Yeah, for sure.
So social messaging is here to stay. So do I expect Zendesk to allow messaging on TikTok soon?
Maybe. So that's the exciting part of it, right? With all these kind of new channels, new way to communicate is whether it's through pandemic, but before pandemic, it's a lot of these disruptors, putting out services on the market, disrupting the market, making another set of trend or standard of customer expectation. So I believe with all these, through the pandemic, accelerated, a lot of these business to connect with customers in a different way, a very unique way, could be the next standard that we're looking at. So I'll just keep it there. I don't know if I dodged it real nicely on whether we're rolling out TikTok, but
all right, it's good. So yeah, social messaging is definitely not a trend. It is here to say I cannot agree more on that. Siddhant?
Yeah, I'll just try to answer that question with a simple analogy. Since I'm not a marketer by education, I'm more of a marketer by experience. I take the analogy of a child and a parent, right? So kids are growing. This today like something else, tomorrow they like something else, right? So how do you know which preference of this is going to stay? It changes every day. So today they like some kind of toys, tomorrow they like some kind of toys. So instead of breaking your head into which is a really which toy to buy for them, try to answer that will they play with this for the next 2 years or they're going to play with this for the next 3 months. I think more important is to really be with them as they're going through these phases. For me, customer is again not a person; it's a relationship, right? It starts very small, like a kid, and then grows, becomes a full-grown, mature relationship with you. As a company, as a brand, the only thing you can do is stay with them, and don't really try to answer the question whether it's permanent. They will tell you. If you are listening to them, if you're observing them, you will know this is a long-term thing they like more deeply, or something they're just trying to enjoy superficially. Right. So to having said that, don't jump into just adding tokenization into your business just because everybody's talking about it. Let your customers evolve and let them see, they really have a little deeper meaning to that. And then you can really invest in. So there's no really, you don't have, I don't get anxious to be the first one to really come out with a product for everything. I'd like to wait and see there's a more deeper meaning, a purpose for that new thing for my customer, and then you do it right way. So that's the way. So sometimes you just humor your customer and you'll do it just like a kid. If you take that approach, I think you'll be able to answer that question.
Wow, I'm taken away by that analogy of looking at it like a parent and doing things for your child. It's an amazing analogy, very philosophical, again from India. That was really good. Brett, do you have any different take on that? Do you think the effects of the pandemic in terms of consumer behavior will stay on after this pandemic, or do you think it would be reversible?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of elements of it that will that are here, right? That have helped us change for the better in terms of how do we use technology to make our lives easier, to make our lives better, and that's from a business perspective as well as a personal perspective. I mean, going back to what Siddhant had said earlier around what people want to spend time with the people that matter to them, right? So if my product helps that happen, then I'm probably going to do okay as a company, right? Because that trend's that really psychographic shift is not going. I don't think it's going back, right? It's only going to be as strong if stronger. I think the omni-channel approach is another really good example. I mean, that regardless of your sector, the ability to be able to take in orders and push out communications to all your consumers across all platforms is going to be super important as you move forward. That's not going anywhere. I do wonder sometimes the face-to-face meetings, to Siddhant's point before, that we all used to have as part of just doing business that weren't necessarily the most productive use of time from, if you look at it from that 30-minute period, but actually were in terms of the taking the steps from toddler to adulthood, right? Then I do wonder if those will start to come back into psyche and into everyday life as we move forward and people get more comfortable. But from a technology perspective, I think the trends that we've seen will continue for sure.
Right. I want to follow through that question and deep dive a little bit, since we're already talking about, we do think that some of these things would stay on, and there are things that are questionable. Like, I think one of which is like work from home. I've been working from home for some of the startups, and when the pandemic happened, and then for some people it's like so revolutionary to them, and I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for quite some time, and I'm pretty sure once they tried it, they'll never go back. But I'm quite surprised a lot of businesses are going back to forcing employees to go back to work. So some of these things that I thought were definitely there to stay is, again, going back. So I would like to jump in and into the interest of time to give way to some of the viewers' questions. What are the major shifts that you're expecting in the future in terms of consumer behavior? As whether it stays permanently or not, we've been hearing a lot of buzzwords about metaverse, creator economy, living in Mars. These are all nice things to hear. But what are the things that you guys think would happen in the near future? Who wants
super
to
tough, super tough. But again, I'll kind of start off. But my personal opinion, yeah, I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to get my head around metaverse still. But look, like I think the response time and how should I put it? The customer patience of getting response from the brand or the company is going to be less and less, it seems like. And this, again, because of the new kind of trend or the product or services that's rolled out through this time, it is maybe accelerating that. And I'm just also in another sense interested, like, again, metaverse, but, just having that face-to-face, the community, just having that, I feel like, yes, we do. I think we all miss that human kind of touch, that relationship that we used to get from face-to-face meetings and community buildings, say. And maybe, who knows, metaverse is the new community kind of way of, having that interaction, and through that community metaverse, it could be the community forum, next forum to help customers help out each other. So I don't know, that could be interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're thinking that metaverse is definitely something to look forward to in the future.
It could be it is an online community, right? So we already have an offline community, but that's not taken away, and people are shifting to have that human kind of relationship through the online community. And wondering if that will spark off into building a community of supports customer experience scene. So
picking up with what Siddhant said earlier, and Brett, I guess the in-person meeting, or face-to-face meeting rather, would now happen in metaverse. So you do golfing in the metaverse, right, and meeting in the metaverse. But Brett, what's your take on this? What are the major shifts that you can foresee in the future happening?
Yeah, it's a challenging question, I think, because the future is like 2022 for right now. Looking beyond that seems pretty challenging. But I think, again, what we see and what I see is really it's taking that, it's how do technologies help people spend time the way they want to spend time, right? And I think that hand in hand with that is this idea of the whole creator economy, which you hear more and more about. But again, it's just a way for someone, as you know well, Chris, in terms of what some of those things you're doing right now, it's just a way for someone to do what they like doing in order to spend time and monetize that in some way, in order to spend time doing what they want to do when they're not in front of the computer or or mobile or whatever it might be. So and I think that's really important. And I think what I think we'll see, and we're seeing it a little bit already in F&B, is sort of that melding of the creator economy and more, I call it just more established older businesses that you have to figure out a way to sort of work together, right? And I think that will start to happen a bit more next year as people sort of, again, start to say, okay, I'm done sort of just figuring out how to get by this month. I want to start thinking ahead. And we're starting to see that now as people start to look forward for 2022. And I think in that sense of that sort of creator economy, more established businesses coming together, I think you'll start to see that more next year and beyond.
Yeah, so true. I think I'm beginning to see some artists or creators working with like big brands to create NFT artwork or items in the metaverse. I'm sorry if I'm too leaning towards metaverse. but yeah, how about Siddhant? Do you have any thing that you'd like to say about the future? What are you expecting?
It's anyone's answer is as good as mine. So let me take a guess. As I think I agree with Brett, future is 2022. Beyond that, you don't know. But I think I bring a philosophy of investment to marketing or running business. Any decision that is based out of FOMO is a wrong investment decision. Same for business, right? You can't really operate from, hey, I'm not on multiverse, hey, I'm not on Mars or whatever, right? Or e-commerce. You can't really operate from them. I think one thing you have to be very clear is that what you are, right? So as a brand, as a person, right? If you think of something, so what do you stand for? And you have to also realize that you can't really go to every party out there with your customer, right? It's not that you don't have to really force yourself. So I don't force myself that I need to have a multiverse strategy. I don't have to force myself that I need to have a quick commerce strategy. I only know what I do. I hear my customers, what they want, expect from me. If they want me to be on multiverse, I will be. If they don't want to be on multiverse, I won't be, right? So you have to understand your audience. You can't really be everything for everyone. It's not going to work. Be clear about what you are. Be clear about who you are for. And don't operate from FOMO. I mean, that's the mantra that I follow. I can say a simple example, right? Gandhi would always dress in that same cloth, no matter who he met, whether he met the queen or whether he met the simple guy on the street. He wouldn't just go to US and say, okay, I'm in the US or I'm in the UK, let me dress up like people in the UK, right? So it's same like a brand. Be clear about what you are. Be stay true to that, and just be. And if you do that, I think you don't have to really go about multiverse. Just listen to your customer. If they expect you to be on multiverse, there's some value that you're going to add to them by being on multiverse. Be on it, and you'll discover ways. These are all different options. As a company, you can't really be out there. You just can't do that. So just prioritize which channel is more impactful, worthwhile for you to communicate what you want to communicate. And if you do that, I think simple decisions to make.
Wow, really always a very philosophical answer coming from Siddhant all the time, but it does make sense, right? It's so easy to, as he mentioned, to have this fear of missing out and just joining the bandwagon. We all hear these buzzwords every day now, and everyone start thinking like, oh, what can I do? Maybe we should create our own cryptocurrency, or maybe we should start planning a new branch in Mars or something like that. But you're like, as Brett said as well, like the future is actually 2022 for most of us at the moment. So you're already thinking about 2030 or something. Amazing. But we do have a lot of questions here, so I want to make sure we are able to find time to answer them. So we do have a question here. Maybe one of you can answer this quickly. From Jerry Lee, are you seeing a surging trend in live streaming e-commerce? Anybody in the team would have any knowledge on this?
Chris, you're probably the best suited to answer that, right?
Yeah. So yes, yeah, this is not from Kristal, but I was part of a video gaming platform for a while, and we used to do live streaming. So yes, there is a trend. People are consuming content in different formats. You have choices. So yes, there's enough million people who are consuming live streaming as well. And is it going to grow bigger, or is it going to evolve in something else? My sense is that the basic inherent need is that mobile is the primary screen. It's more of a demand generation that I will consume things when I want to. That's going to happen. It's going to be in short formats. I think those are basic fundamentals, and different kind of solutions are going to come which kind of meet these criteria. I believe live interaction is going to go. Will it replace? I always say the world is hybrid. What has taught me over the last 20 years of being in the business that it's going to be a hybrid world. We are 7 billion people. You are not going to have all 7 billion people doing the same thing, right? There's space for every solution. There's space for every technology. Maybe again, philosophical answer. In Indian philosophy, you have 30,000 gods. Why? Because you can design your own god. There's a space for every god. There's space for every form. So pick your own. And I think so. It's going to stay. It's going to grow because it's very nascent right now. So you're going to see it become substantial. But is it going to replace other formats? I don't think so.
Great. Okay. Next question from Kyra Kunimura. Any tips on how to start engaging with your customers beyond sales? How do you begin that conversation? Who'd like to take on this question?
will, just a quick answer. I think the key here is authenticity. If it comes across as being a sales call, a thinly veiled sales call, they're going to see right through it, right? So if you want to have a conversation with a customer that is beyond sales, then it needs to be only about that. It has to be other than sales, right? So it has to be authentic. It has to be, I think over the last couple of years, especially that feeling of empathy that is there. Everyone, we're in this together. Are trying to figure out the best way to sort of get all of us forward, you and us. So, how can we help? I think those are the key things. But yeah, it's just it has to be authentic. Otherwise, customers will see right through it.
Is there any specific channel that you've seen this authenticity shine more? Are you able to do this not over email, or do you feel like picking up the phone, having a Zoom call makes more sense, or face-to-face?
Yeah, so we have our team, and I do this as well, but they have to have a certain number of face-to-face calls, if you will, or at least on the phone, but not email, right? You can use obviously email to set up a call, but I think that you get the best feedback when you're just having a chat with somebody, and it's harder to do that on a more of a casual ad hoc basis right now, but it's still important to do that. And I think if you can see somebody, that's even better. So if you can have that Zoom call, that's probably the best avenue right now.
All right, and we have an anonymous question here: how to deal with customers who are not keen on adapting to these changes? I'd like to direct you to Ken, since you work with SMB and startups. I would assume some of them are not too keen on changing things, right? So Ken, how do you deal with them?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How do you deal with customers who are not keen on adapting to the changes? So
yes,
more particular about maybe the changing world, and the customers prefer one way or over the other.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? I think we can't force them from our perspective, but really share the value of taking that risk of change. I've worked with a lot of customers and companies where they might be willing to change their customer solution platform or service that they had and replace it to Zendesk. But if their sole operation is not changing, then it's just a new technology, but with the old operation. We need to add value, and it's tough. Also, I have conversation with our sales team often, but we need to make sure that we're addressing the value of this customer experience in general, because a lot of traditional companies, especially in this early startup business, we tend to deprioritize the customer support and customer experience. It's obviously not the priority in startup business, but it does affect how your products improve as an organization as well. Getting this feedback from the customers, let's make sure that understand how customer gets happy or ticked off, angry about your service, right? All these feedbacks are very crucial in startup early business, and in order to do that, it's not just the marketing kind of one-way communication. We need to make sure that there's a channel available for the consumers and customers to send us their voice of concerns to. So I would say, yes, it is challenging to kind of force people, but let's make sure that it's not all about customer support, customer experience. Let's make sure that you're thinking about, or you're pulling your business decision owners or business decision makers to understand the value of opening up these channels to the customers and consumers to improve their business. Cool. I would put it that way, yeah.
All right, thank you. And as the last question from Joel Pello, I guess I'll ask all of you to answer this. His question is, what other considerations can you give as seasoned entrepreneurs for others to future-proof their businesses? What he means by that is there's a lot of lists or advice, but what is the one thing that people tend to overlook that they should keep in mind? in terms of future-proofing your business? Let's start with Siddhant.
Okay, and that's a very good question. And that's a question that I'm been trying to answer for quite a few years, and have kind of got to some stage. And the answer actually didn't lie for me in the big companies of the world. I looked at very small 100-year-old businesses in India, right? A small shop, been there for almost 100, 200 years. People still going to it. Doesn't have a lot of VC money, right? People still go to it. Why are people going to the same shop? I mean, generations have passed. Their great-grandfather used to go and eat at the same place. The son, and the new generation still continues to go. So what have they done right to really command this kind of loyalty from customers? And these shops don't have big marketing budget, right? They're not really they're not on Facebook, right? They're not Instagram chatting with you, right? But still they get this customers back to them again and again. My understanding is very simple. First, they are very clearly focused on what they do, and they do it right day in, day out. So a customer almost have a defined expectation from what they can expect from this business, from a service, and they deliver it day in, day out with the customer. Obviously, they treat the customers with respectfully. That's a given right now. You have to treat everybody equally and respectfully. They do that. They manage the finances really well. But what they do the best is their employees or the processes that they have, they make sure that they get the people right. They are not into 10,000 businesses. It's not that they've got a surge of VC money and they've got a super business of something. They're putting all their resources and being great at doing that one thing they've been doing for the last 100 years and delivering it again and again. And yes, they improvise a little bit in terms of how do they initially 100 years back, they would make a bigger packet of the product. Now they have more consumable, easy to carry, easy to take. So they understand that they're observing to how the consumer is consuming my product, like in what quantity, what is the price point. They're very cognizant of that. They hear that very intently, right? On the price part and the package size part. That part they do well, but the product experience, the taste of it, the after sales experience, that they're very clear about. They have very close pulse on it. They observe the customers because the customer comes to them. They don't have a great data science helping them. They don't have an AI helping them understand. They listen. They genuinely listen. The owner of the company doesn't sit in some fancy place. He sits right there on the counter, listening to his customers, how they're consuming it. And I'll just close my comment with an example of IKEA founder, right? Even when he was in his late 70s, he would sit at the check-in counter. And people assume that he was sitting on the check-in counter just to calculate how much sales is happening. But he says, no, that's not what I'm here for. I'm just listening what they're buying and selling. And imagine this is IKEA's founder, right? He has got all the data in the world. He can really get that report from any of the business heads to tell him what people are buying and not. But he still wants to get that anecdotal, physical validation of what people are buying and not. And that's valuable. And I think you do that and you step out of your dashboard of AI and the tool that you have, and you really go and listen to your customer, I think you will find a way to really grow and future-proof your business. That's all.
Wow. Okay. Interesting take on that. Brett, what would be your take on future-proofing your business?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. Obviously, it dovetails well with what we're all talking about today. I mean, you just got to make sure that you're always solving a customer pain point and you're listening to the customer, because that pain point evolves, right? It doesn't stay static. And the one other thing I would add in, if we're talking about future-proofing your business, and this is a message that maybe it doesn't resonate as much with VCs nowadays as it has in the past, but cash is king, right? So you cash is not always going to be there. I know it feels that way now, or in that sort of bit of the market cycle. But you need to be smart about how you're thinking about cash and planning ahead as well. So I think those two things are really key.
Thank you for that. And Ken?
Yeah, both put it really nicely. And I could one thing that I could add is to really make sure that you have the appetite to trial and of course not be afraid to make mistakes, right? It's as we all know, it's all the cycle of trial and error, repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So it's really just making sure that you're setting up a goal and learning from the mistakes and then putting to repeat on what worked and avoid what didn't work. So I would put that in there through both of the leaders here just mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you. I have so much things that I learned from you guys. I wasn't expecting the answers you guys shared today. I was expecting to hear a lot of buzzwords and talk about live streaming and quick commerce, metaverse, cryptocurrency, and stuff like that, right? Like these are the changes we've started beginning to see. But I really just want to quickly recap all the key learnings I got from you guys. So number one is, I think how, like Siddhant mentioned earlier, how people value time. Time has been there since forever. We all get 24 hours each day, but how we use our time is very different now. And how that what that means to your customers or your employees, as pointed out by Kan, is very important that we become extremely cautious how we spend, how we use that time. And also, as shared earlier, Brett shared about the importance of data and insight is becoming more important, because as people shift towards digital, of course, that information becomes available, but it's really how you not just gather that data, but as mentioned was like the insight that you get from these data points. But as companies like us, we collect these data from different channels, and it becoming omni-channel is important, as pointed out by Kan earlier. It doesn't matter so much about what others are doing. It's all about what matters to your customers. Some customers might still prefer phone calls. Then you should have that as an option for them, not because like everyone's doing live chat. I know that was kind of like a trend. Like all the banks are asking you to submit your document through a messenger chatbot, and I'm like, I don't trust this chatbot. Why do you want me to do this? I want to just email it to you. Why can I just not do it that way, right? But that's how it is. Like the questions you guys have asked today as well also kind of gives me an insight of what people are expecting from this talk. But I think there's so many nuggets of information that hopefully was a very meaningful afternoon or morning, depending where you are. And I'd like to give the floor back to E2017. Lara?
Okay. Thanks, Chris, Brett, Kan, and Siddhant. It was a very great discussion, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. So just a couple of reminders for everyone. So there you go. So we mentioned earlier that this webinar is brought to you in partnership with Zendesk, and we're happy to share that they're offering a 6 months free trial when you join the Zendesk Startup program. So you can scan the QR code on the screen to access that. We'll also be sending you links and information over email after this webinar. Now, so we've been doing a series of webinars throughout the year. So if you want to get updated on that, you can find out more about our upcoming events, as well as other events and programs, not just by us, but by the other organizations and companies and groups in the ecosystem that you may be keen on joining on e27.co/events, or you could sign up for an E27 account if you haven't yet, so you could get updated on these events and programs via the Daily Digest. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. See you again next time. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Nice, Kan. Take care. Nice meeting you. Take care, Christopher.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
See you guys. Bye.